Everyone thought the new Elation MC would be broken before their V1, but here's the truth. After we learned together about their update journey throughout the beta, they are not. But that does not mean they are bad. In fact, if you miss Yaoguang, this might be your okay replacement. So in this video, we are going to break down everything you need to know about them, how they actually work, and how to build them properly. In this content, you will find more about their base lightcone options, relics, and planar set, and their stats requirement. Alright, let's get started. So the new Elation MC, they are 5-star lightning unit following the Elation path. You can think of them as the budget Yaoguang, so if you skip her back in version 4.0, EMC can actually fill a similar role for your account. Looking at their best stats, they have relatively low HP and attack, but their defense is quite high. Their base speed sits at 106, and their ultimate has a cost of 160 energy. Now let's go over their abilities, and I will say this before we begin, EMC's power level are decent to strong, but not on the same level as the Remembrance MC when that version was first released. But just looking at RMC's overall broken performance kinda make us think that their newest variant is underwhelming. And then for those of you who still get confused between Certified Banger and Punchlines, Certified Banger points are not the same as Punchline points. Punchlines are the ones you see tied to AHA, and after AHA instance triggers, those get converted into Certified Banger points for Elation units. So basically, Punchlines are the shared resource, while Certified Banger is what each character actually uses. This is important to know since normally, AHA is the one generating these points for the team, but EMC can generate Certified Banger for themselves directly through their skill. Starting with their basic attack is just a standard single target lightning hit, nothing too special there. But their skill deals AoE lightning damage to all enemies and generate 20 Certified Banger points. Their ultimate generates 5 punchline points, boosts one ally's crit damage by 50% for 3 turns, and also removes any crowd control effects on that ally. If the buff target has an Elation skill, they gain 10 Certified Banger points, and instantly trigger their Elation skill, using a fixed 20 punchline value. If the target does not have an Elation skill, their action is instead advanced forward by 50%. For the talent, every time they attack, they restore a fixed 10 energy and gain 3 punchline points. This means their basic attack generates 30 energy in total, and their skill generates 40. If the Trailblazer has Certified Banger stacks, their skill will also deal additional 30% lightning elation damage to all enemies, calculated based on the highest Certified Banger value among all allies. So for example, if Evanescia has the highest stacks, the damage calculation will use her value instead. Their technique grants a random effect when used. There's a small chance to get a 30% elation boost, and a higher chance to receive a lower elation buff. Once the battle starts, this buff applies to all allies for 3 turns. The elation skill has multiple times, dealing 8 instances of 20% lightning elation damage to random enemies, followed by additional 60% lightning elation damage that is split evenly across all enemies. Looking at their traces, the A2 increases elation by 10% for every 200 attack above 1000, up to a maximum of 60%. The A4 grants 15% crit rate and restores 1 skill point for the team after using the ultimate. Lastly, the A6 allows the Trailblazer to gain 2 extra Certified Banger points on their next skill after an ally uses Elation skill. For leveling priority, you want to focus on the ultimate and talent first, since those directly impact the crit damage buff that you will give to one of your allies and their overall scaling. After that, you can level up their Elation skill and normal skill for damage and consistency throughout the battle. The basic attack will come last, or it's okay if you don't want to level it up at all, to save some resources since it does not affect EMC's mechanic at all. For their eidolons, starting with E1, after using a skill, their next ultimate will increase the Certified Banger gain by a target ally by 2, and this effect can stack up to 3 times. E2 adds an extra effect to the ultimate, boosting the selected ally's elation damage by 12% for 2 turns. At E4, whenever they use their elation skill, all enemies will take 10% increased damage taken for 2 turns. And finally, E6 gives a massive boost but not that really important for the team. After using their Elation skill, the Trailblazer gains 100% crit damage for 3 turns. Overall, their eidolons are not overpowered, which makes sense for a free character, but once you reach E6, they offer solid utility and respectable damage. Now let's talk about their lightcone option. Their best in slot is technically Yaoguang's signature. It gives the user an 18% speed boost, which is already very valuable. On top of that, when entering battle or when the wearer use their ultimate on an ally, they gain Great Fortune effect. This effect increases the team's crit rate by 10% and crit damage by 30%, while also boosting the wearer's energy regen by 12% and restoring a fixed 15 energy every wave. Everything this lightcone offers fits perfectly with the Elation Trailblazer's role as both sub DPS and as a support. Since you want to stack as much speed as possible on them, the speed bonus is extremely useful. They can also fully utilize the passive since their ultimate targets allies, meaning you can maintain near full uptime on the crit buffs, because they cycle their ultimate fairly quickly. The entire team, including the Trailblazer, benefits consistently from the added crit stats. On top of that, generating ultimate faster is a big priority for them, so both the flat energy gain and the energy regen are highly valuable. Overall, this is what makes it their best in slot option. If you happen to have this lightcone available, it's easily the best choice. Aside from that, the most common option for most players will be the hair touch of lightcone, the Elation brimming with blessings. This one increases the wearer's attack by 20%, and after using a skill or ultimate on an ally, it boosts that ally's elation stat by 12% for 2 turns. At S5, this becomes 40% attack and 24% elation boost. The attack stat is not wasted here, since you do want to reach around 2200 attack to fully maximize their trace. While that requirement is already fairly easy to hit, this lightcone makes it even more consistent. Since the Trailblazer regularly use their ultimate on an ally, you will also be giving a solid elation boost, usually to your main elation DPS, making it a very efficient and reliable option. It's simple, but it works really well. There's also the Anniversary Lightcone, which is another usable alternative. It provides 12% crit damage, and after using an ultimate, it increases all allies' elation by 8% for 1 turn. At S5, that becomes 24% crit damage and 12% elation. It's straightforward and decent, though not amazing. The crit damage is not that impactful since their buffs don't scale off their own crit stats like many other supports. Still, the team-wide elation boost has some value, so if you don't have the better options, this is a perfectly fine fallback. Lastly, there's the free-to-play Shroomy Adventure Lightcone. This one increases the wearer's elation by 12%. And when they use elation skill, it causes enemies to take 6% more elation damage for 2 turns. At S5, this becomes 20% elation and 10% vulnerability. This means enemies will consistently take more damage from all elation sources. It's a solid F2P option if you don't have access to the others, and overall it performs similarly to the Anniversary Lightcone. Now for the Relics options. If you are running a team where no one is using the Diviner set, specifically if you are not playing with Yao Guang since she usually holds it, then Diviner becomes their best Relic option. The 2-piece gives speed, and the 4-piece can provide up to 80% crit rate depending on your speed. On top of that, it increases the team's elation damage by 10%, the first time an elation skill is used in the battle. The extra speed helps a lot with building the character, and the added crit rate makes it easier to maintain a solid crit ratio. It can even be slightly better for personal damage, and the team-wide elation boost is a nice bonus. However, since that team buff does not stack, there's no reason to run it if Yao Guang is already using it. But if no one else has it equipped, then this becomes a very strong option. Another option is the Sacerdote set. Its 2-piece gives speed, while the 4 pieces increases the crit damage of the ally you buff when you use a skill or ultimate on them, lasting for 2 turns and stacking up to 2 times. In practice though, you will only get 1 stack, since the EMC does not cycle their ultimate fast enough and only the ultimate actually targets an ally. Still, even 1 stack gives 18% crit damage, which is solid for a support role. Plus, the 2-piece speed bonus help with building them. If your team already have Yao Guang and using the Diviner set, I guess the next good option is the Eagle set. I know the 2-piece effect is not very useful here, but the 4-piece is what really matters. It advances the wearer's action by 25% after using their ultimate. This helps you squeeze out more turns overall. Since Elation MC is built with as much speed as possible, you are essentially trading some damage for faster turn cycling. More turns mean you act more often, generate more energy, and ultimately get your ultimate back quicker for your main DPS. That's why this set is so strong but with several drawbacks. Oh, by the way, using Hackerspace could also work somehow. You have to take note that its full effect is not always active. It can be quite effective when paired with Silverwolf, since she benefits heavily from higher speed, and the buff can help with more consistent elation procs while it's active. However, since the uptime is not permanent and takes time to come back, it's not the most consistent choice. Still, it's a viable option, mainly in teams built around supporting Silverwolf. Lastly, you can also go with 2-piece combo of speed plus attack, or just speed plus speed. Both can work as alternatives. For 2-piece planar sets, you've got quite a bit of flexibility. You can run pretty much any support-oriented set as long as the effect actually benefits elation damage. For example, sets that gives a crit stats like Broken Kill are always a solid pick. You can also go with something like Izumo, which provides both attack and crit rate, 2 stats that the Trailblazer can actually make good use of. Another option is Lushaka, which gives extra energy regen and some attack for your main DPS if they need it. If you are having trouble reaching the higher speed requirements for the Diviner set, you can also consider using the Giant Tree set to help boost your speed further. Overall, the best setup is still the Diviner 4-piece combined with either Broken Kill or Izumo as your 2-piece. It really comes down to what you need more, team-wide crit damage from Kill or extra attack and crit rate for the Trailblazer from Izumo. For main stats on your relics, go with crit rate or crit damage on the body depending on what you are lacking more, but ideally aim for crit rate for consistency, since their A6 already gave them 100% crit damage. For boots, speed is the way to go. On the planar orb, use attack percent to help reach the requirement for their trace that converts attack into elation damage. However, if you can already hit around 20 to 100 attack without it, you can switch to HP percent instead for a bit more survivability. For the rope, energy regen rate is your best choice. As for substats, focus on speed, crit rate, and crit damage. When it comes to stat goals, your first priority is reaching around 20 to 100 attack to fully maximize the trace that boosts elation damage. After that, stack as much speed as possible. This is especially important if you are using the Diviner set, since you will need to reach 160 speed, a fairly high requirement considering EMC's base speed is not that high. Finally, for crit stats, aim for 65 to 70% crit rate, including the bonus you get from the Diviner set. After that, you can invest the rest into crit damage. Even if your crit damage looks low on paper, it's not a big issue since E6 already gives a massive 100% crit damage boost. So that's all for today's Elation MC build video. Overall, they are a good unit, but not as broken as their previous versions. I hope this video can help those of you that want to start farming and building Elation MC from now. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button, turn on notification as well so you won't miss out on any of my Star Rail content. I will see you guys on my next one. Bye bye!